The Premier of Victoria?
Yeah.
He's just resigned.
What for? Oh, a bit shocked, actually. Bit of a knee-jerk reaction, I think.
Quite frankly, I couldn't give a rat's.
I reckon the Labor Party's stuffed, to tell you the truth, if Kane's gone.
When he declared war on the BLF, we said that we would be here long after he had gone.
Well, I don't think he's very popular of late, is he? There's many other things that have happened apart from the pyramid and so on.
Well, who do you think would be a good replacement for him?
So I don't know what sort of replacement we've got.
Joan Cooner.
Steve Crabb, I suppose.
Might as well have a Scotsman at the helm.
Perhaps Steve Crabb or Tom Roper.
I'm not sure. I'll leave it to them to find out.
John Kane's official announcement to his media conference today on his resignation was an emotional farewell. He fought back the tears as he ranged over a number of subjects that he said led to his shock decision. He praised his wife, his family and public servants. Here are highlights from his speech.
Those of the party over the years who've gone before us, I think would be shattered if they saw the kinds of things that were happening. But for the government to do what it had to do, what it should do if it's a real Labor government, it had to have that loyalty. So it was in that context that I told the caucus that last night I advised the Governor of my intention to resign because I believed the point had been reached where I couldn't contribute any more in those terms. Only a politician's family knows what they put up with. My family have been terrific. Nancy's gone through more than any reasonable politician should expect from their spouse. I thank the family for all they've done and putting up with being a politician's family for a long time. John, this is my day, not any aspirant's day, and I'm not discussing who should be leader. John? Yeah, I wanted to lead. I believe I've got a lot more to do. I'd love to be contributing more, but what I have to say to you is, in the terms I laid down, that's not possible. You know, all this glib stuff that people write about Labor being on the nose in Victoria, Labor's on the nose every day of every year for the last 90 years in Victoria. And I said before that I've got the toughest job in Australia politically, barring Bob Hawke. I come to the final point that I make in this context is that for governments to be effective, they have to have a united party behind the leader.
The fall of John Kane marks the end of an era for Labor politics. The man who followed his father's footsteps reigned for most of the 80s in a style all his own. Jim Brown looks back on the events that shaped John Kane's political career.
Labor is the only political party who faces the electors without discredit.
These pictures say it all. Even as a schoolboy, John Kane was deeply committed to the Labor Party and its ideals.
Well, all I've got to say is thanks for returning me, and I assure you Labor will give you a square deal.
As was his father before him. John Kane Sr. was Labor Premier for one term until 1955 when his government collapsed. He died 2 years later. Before that, John Kane Jr. graduated with a law degree from Melbourne University. Then from comparative political obscurity, he was elected leader of the opposition the year before Labor victoriously swept to power in Victoria in 1982 with a handsome 51% of the total vote.
I'm not promising miracles in 1 week or 1 month or 100 days.
John Kane was the right man for the time, a quintessential Victorian, happily married, a family man with a reserved, almost shy style. In March 1984, he surpassed his father's record and led Labor to an historic second term. But in the difficult and worsening economic climate, the swing against him and his government was then underway. Despite that, John Kane created history yet again by leading Labor to a third but close election victory. But the subsequent catalogue of financial disasters eroded the confidence of the public and his own colleagues in his leadership, which led to today's dramatic resignation. At the end, as in the beginning, his wife Nancy was there at the turning point in their lives. The burden of 7 years in government has taken its toll on John Kane. History has yet to judge the Kane years, but there are tangible achievements for the record, like the completion of the Alcoa project, the building of the National Tennis Centre, the MCG lights erected despite local community and BLF objections, and the deregistration of the BLF and jailing of Norm Gallagher. The Kane government also brought in new laws on prostitution, legalising brothels, and eased liquor restrictions. His opponents can no doubt compile a longer list of his failures. But there is a moment in Labor history only John Cain can savour.
They've returned us for a third term. Never happened before in Victoria. Never happened before.
Jim Brown reporting. And Peter Costigan salutes the integrity of the Premier and casts his verdict on the fall of John Cain.
In that emotional farewell to the premiership today, John Cain declared his preference for the public sector any time. A pertinent comment, because this was at the root of his government's problems. He concentrated the energies of his government and wasted billions of dollars of its revenues on trying to turn Victoria into a giant public service-run business. And the first duty of government, protecting the public and monitoring its savings in institutions like building societies, was neglected. John Cain's immense political achievement was to vindicate his father and establish a record as Premier. His father's term was cut off by the stupidity of his party. John Cain's by the misdirection of his government. But John Cain does leave with a great personal achievement, a degree of unquestioned personal integrity rarely if ever achieved by Australian politicians. I'm Peter Costigan.
Victoria's new Premier is certainly going to have to make some hard decisions to get the economy moving again. That's according to the Victorian Employers Federation, which says the state's leadership has been paralysed in recent months. Executive Director David Edwards says government expenditure will have to be severely reduced in next month's state budget if Victoria is to progress. A survey released today by the VEF shows that 68% of people questioned last weekend are in favour of government spending cuts, despite union objections. Only 23% are against cuts. When it comes to government sell-offs, 70% are in favour of selling the State Insurance Office. Sale of the SEC is supported by 50% and the Gas and Fuel Corporation by 48%. Payroll tax increases are opposed by 80%, with only 14% in favour. Now coming up, a pine...